Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Post this on Twitter. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Hey everyone, how you guys doing? Okay. Having a nice fun stream today.
Oh, it's just me and Trio at the moment until whoever else shows up.
Okay, let me form a posse here. I loved your Sopranos playthrough. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Max Fries, for sponsoring the channel. Well, you do Kane and Lynch 2 later in this month. Thank you, Super Mario, for sponsoring the channel. Let's see here. Boat theft. I always like that one.
You think I'm mean, don't you? I bet you think I'm the meanest son of a bitch ever drew breath. Why? Because I'm a killer, I'm a thief, and a boy. I'm not nearly the meanest. No way. I'll only kill someone if they deserve it. And I'll kill them quick, out of the goodness of my own heart. Skinner Brothers ain't like that. Keep that in mind when you're stealing their boats from me, from up at Bacchus Bridge there. I might be mean, okay, but I ain't a damn loon.
Okay, horse is right here. How's everyone, Jim's been good. How's everyone's weekend been? I gotta go to call my stables in here, because I think one of my horses is dead. Oh, yeah. Hello, Red Dead Redemption Outlaw. Oh, you're a YouTuber too, I see. Oh, you do Red Dead content. I'll subscribe to you. Okay, let's get over those boats. Yeah, I'm enjoying my Friday too.
Red Dead Redemption Outlaw. How many subs?
He has 115,000, I think. In my opinion, GTA 5 Online is driving the most fun I've ever had driving in a video game. And I still have fun on police chases, seeing how far I can go. Thank you, Red Burger King. Have you played GTA 4, though? Because GTA 4, I think, has better driving than GTA 5, and so some of the chases in GTA 4 can get really cool.
Vehicle deformation is definitely really good in GTA 4 as well.
Well, thank you, Mizor, Suriyuki, if I'm pronouncing your name. Thank you for sponsoring my channel. Thank you, man. There's a new weapon in the Saints Row Reboot DLC. Oh, I didn't even notice. It's good with you, Pro. I can join you since I got some time. If no, though, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I can drop PSN again if you want. Do I have you added? You can tell me what your PSN is, though. I could probably message you after the stream, Blinded Eagle. Thank you for the super chat, man. Well, I think the driving in GTA 4 is better, too, because it focuses more on realism. That's what I personally like about it. Come on, don't get stuck here, horse. Never forget that Cringe Row DLC main antagonist looks like RPG Gameplay's boss mixed with Diet Andrew Tate. I feel like Volition is taking snipes. Yeah, I actually heard about that. So a bunch of my comments on my video were saying that the like Chris Hardy, what was his name? That he looks like RPG Gameplay's character. And I was like, wait, what? I was confused for a moment. And then I went on RPG Gameplay's videos and I looked at what his Saints Row character looked like, and he looked kind of similar. So maybe it's a similar character model, but I wouldn't be surprised if Volition actually did do something making fun right there. But that's messed up. Oh, thank you, Melon. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Mr. Waifu. Thank you. $50 super chat from Melon. Hey, Pat, sorry about last night when we run episode 2 again. Can we do it earlier than last night? I know we'll beat it this time. First run was a test one. This one will be one we will enjoy your stream. And could you shout me out at some point, please? Okay. Well, thank you, Melon. Thank you for the super chat. And we can do the raid missions in Modern Warfare whenever you have the time. Thank you, Melon, for the super chat. Thanks, man. And check out his channel there, guys. Thanks for the super chat, Melon.
Yeah, I helped Melon out as well, too. This channel.
Does anybody get that glitch on Modern Warfare 2? Like, there's this really annoying glitch that I've started getting recently, and I haven't had it happen to me before this new season. But the annoying glitch, it keeps saying packet burst. It'll say packet burst, and my game lags for like a few seconds, and I have a good connection. I have gig speed internet. So I don't know why it's doing that. I never did that before, and all of a sudden it does that. Has that packet burst thing been happening to anyone else on Modern Warfare?
I kind of had that happen a little bit to me last night. There's no wonder why I was struggling during the parkour part.
So Red Dead Redemption Outlaw, since you're a Red Dead channel, what do you think about Rockstar neglecting this game? What are your thoughts on the Saints Row DLC overall? Honestly, I would have given the DLC a 5 or a 4 out of 10, but the only reason that I said 6 out of 10 at the end was because at least you get a mansion. That's really the only reason. But yeah, the first 2 missions were kind of sucked. The third mission was kind of better. Thank you for your stream scroll. Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for the super chat, man. Let me drive the other boat. Coming.
Well, what's going on with this canoe?
Thank you, Tyler. Will I try out the new weapon? Well, what is the new weapon in Saints Row? So has anybody else gotten that packet burst glitch on Modern Warfare 2? Not really, Kevin. I think it most Julius did. And Julius's and Troy's betrayal is very different. Like, Troy kind of betrayed the Saints, but he still wanted them to all get out without getting hurt. Where just Julius just, you know, tried to blow you up. Well, Professional, I play Reddit Online a lot back in 2022. I grinded to well over 30,000 for hope that there was an update coming, but it never came. I was quite sad because Rockstar didn't appreciate the game. Yep. And guess what, guys? In 2 months, it's going to be 2 years. 2 years since this game was abandoned. Can you believe that? 2 years since this game was abandoned. Yeah, that's
Yeah. Makes me really hope to see another
Okay,
really
Melon.
awesome Western game, like Red Dead again.
I hope that somebody makes a good a Western game. I want somebody to compete with Rockstar, because Rockstar screwed over Reddit Online so badly. Somebody else could make a competitor.
The best bet is Techland with the Call of Juarez franchise if they bring it back.
Yeah, but that was first person though. I was
Yeah.
I would like to see somebody do a third person, like in a Wild West game, and like as an actual competitor to
The closest competitor to Red Dead was Activision's Gun as well. Fernando's one friend is actually doing a playthrough on that game, DHC Network.
What, the
Gun.
Call of Juarez?
Gun, the one game called Gun.
Oh, Gun,
Made by,
okay.
the creators of Tony Hawk.
Dumbbell launcher, huh? How do you... It's at the gun store? I didn't even look. See if there's a new weapon. Am I the only person who would love to see Rockstar make a pirate game like something similar to Red Dead Redemption 1700's Pirate Period? Would be sweet. I think it would be cool, Red Dead Redemption Outlaw, but I'd like to see, you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see a game set in the 1920s, like the Mafia era, maybe in like Chicago or something like that.
The game Skull and Bones was supposed to be kind of like one of those types of games similar to Red Dead and stuff, where you would be going on land and stuff, but it's mostly just going to be a ship game.
Well, you know what sucked about Skull and Bones is why does the game not have any, you know, third-person combat? It's all just... yeah, I don't get that. It's not enough open campsite. Okay, finally. Can people join your Moonshine Shack without an invite? No, I don't think they can. I'm glad Rockstar abandoned Red Dead Online because now they can focus on the next bug project, GTA 6 and GTA Online for PlayStation 6. I think you're trolling those specialists. Yeah, you're trolling. But thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Mifagoras. Good evening, Pro. Hey, how are you, man? Thanks for the super chat too.
Oh no.
Why do you play this game if this game is dead? Because my fans like this game and they like watching me play this game, and I built a huge part of my channel on this game. I still, you know, there's no content coming out in this game, but I still make some videos on this game and play the game. Steven Van Zandt played as Silvio Dante. Yes, he did. And the thing about that, before he played Silvio Dante, he actually was never an actor. He was actually a musician. One moment, guys. Let me just turn on my air conditioner here because it's getting really hot here. One moment, everyone. Okay.
Must be getting very warm in the Dakotas.
I know about that. I know that Steph was insulting the fans. I'm very well aware of that.
Where are we going, Pat?
Hey, Pro, I love your SpongeBob memes. I'd like to know, which is your favorite SpongeBob episode? My favorite SpongeBob episode is probably the chocolate episode. That's probably, like, the best one. Yeah, the chocolate episode was pretty good. Thank you, bro, for the super chat.
One of the most funniest SpongeBob things that you put in one of your videos, Pat, was when Volition was losing out on money or something and you showed Krusty Krab crying about his money disappearing or something. That was funny.
Yep. I remember that one. I'm good, Elicio. How are you? Yeah, literally, when I was a kid and that chocolate guy was chasing them, I thought he wanted to kill them.
I'm guessing SpongeBob is like non-copyright. That's why you use it a lot, right?
SpongeBob is copyright, but like a few scenes like that, it's fine. Another good SpongeBob episode. I don't know why I'm loading so long. I might have to restart my game, but another really good SpongeBob episode is the really old one. It's from the late 90s or early 2000s. It's like the first season, I think. It's the one when SpongeBob and Patrick get trapped in rock bottom. That one was also really good. Oh yeah, the one when they were the night shift, when they were working late at night. Yep. Okay, Michael, can you invite me again because my game's glitched?
Invite you to the session.
Yes.
Did you fall out of the session?
I had to close my app because my game was glitched because I was stuck on an endless black screen.
Okay.
Is Mr. Krabs a good boss? No, 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 no.
Oh, there you are. Finally, your name popped up. There you are.
Can you send me a PlayStation invite like you did before?
Yep, you get it?
Okay, just waiting. Okay, got it now. I'm doing good, Yasin. I actually wasn't that freaked out by the Nosferatu scene in Hashling Slasher. I will be playing some more games on this channel. Skyline. I'll be doing Kane and Lynch 2 this month, and also Hitman Freelancer.
What's the difference between the original Hitman?
And does that let you play online though? The PSP multiplayer on GTA? Would you play Hogwarts Legacy? Possibly. The worst character in SpongeBob? You mean the nastiest person in SpongeBob? Probably be Mr. Krabs. He's even worse than Plankton. What did you say, Isaiah? Because I read a bunch of comments. Oh, and I got a crazy current events video coming out this weekend, guys. This YouTuber, Trevor Jacob, I think his name was, he got sentenced, I think, to 20 years. He crashed his plane for views. So it was a YouTuber who crashed his plane for views, and I'm gonna do a video talking about that whole thing.
That's bad.
Yeah, the guy was an idiot. I don't even know anything about planes, and yet when I saw that video, like when he made no attempt to try to save the plane or anything like that, it just supposedly turned off, and he just jumped out immediately.
Yeah, yet again, it's one of those people who are trying to get attention by doing dumb things, but you're not going to get the good attention.
Want to know how toxic Twitter is? A few years ago, some guy in Ireland was harassed online by Red Dead fans over his name, Colm O'Driscoll. What? Well, thank you, Silver Fox, for the super chat. Why would you harass somebody over their name? Damn.
Colm O'Driscoll was the guy's name. Wow.
There's a legendary animal here, I believe.
I
Oh,
would
I don't-
be surprised if somebody had the name Frank Tenpenny and got harassed.
Thank you, Silver Fox. An app called Parsec lets you play any multiplayer local, like old PSP GTA 5. I never heard of this app.
Guessing you're
Great.
reopening the posse.
Oh, let me do that right now. I forgot. Can you stream the game Outlast? I already have. Go on my channel, look up Outlast streams.
Hello.
I just haven't streamed,
Hello.
I want to stream Whistleblower again. That will probably do this Halloween.
You like the $50 super chat I sent you, Pat?
Thank you, Melon. I do appreciate it.
If I'm being honest, I was gonna send it on my way home from Ginny Springs, but I thought I'd send it before I joined here. But episode 2, I can do it probably tomorrow after work.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you
Just,
for the
let me
super
know when you're
chat.
down.
I do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, well, yeah, help you out a little bit. Get you at 50. I get paid. I get paid this Thursday, so it's not too big of a deal for me. I just gotta keep an eye on my subscriptions.
Hey, so Pat, I'm guessing this is what you're probably gonna do once we get back up to that gas part and stuff. That's when you'll start the recording back up again, right? Just get past all that other stuff first.
We'll just start all over again on it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, we got it this time. If we got that far on our first run, we can beat the sucker.
There's a spot in the posse if you want to join.
I'm gonna do some more research on episode 3, see how that one goes, so I can be more prepared for it. I'm not going in blind.
I guess you can watch some of Ink Slash.
What do you think about GTA YouTubers saying that GTA Plus benefits for this month sucks? In my opinion, I think the GTA Plus benefits for this month are better than gifts Rockstar added to Red Dead Online, like the chocolate bar. I actually really don't pay attention to. I don't really pay attention to GTA Plus. I don't really actually care for it. I think that GTA Plus is personally stupid.
Yeah, I won't belong to a Call of
I just
Duty
don't think
party
it's
or something
necessary
like
at
that.
all.
Call of Duty Plus.
Yeah. So, Tom Henderson, a very reliable leaker in the world, has confirmed that Call of Duty 2023 is going to be somewhat of a Modern Warfare 3.
I heard about that the next Call of Duty is going to be Modern Warfare 3. That's crazy. It just came out.
Yeah, Tom Henderson yesterday leaked it. Release date and everything. Comes out November 14th or something like that. Sometime in November.
That's only 6 months away.
Rumor is there's going to be a zombies outbreak style mode in there. Nothing's confirmed. This is just all leaked and hearsay that's been going on for the past couple of weeks.
I wonder if WW3 will actually happen again in this Modern Warfare 3.
World War 3, you mean? Well,
Yeah.
Makarov is going to be the antagonist in the next game, so we'll have to see whether he comes back as a, whether he starts a war. Wait, what's up, Blinded Eagle? Look, here's the thing about GTA Plus. I made a promise not to buy GTA Plus under any circumstances. Even if there's stuff I can't cover on my YouTube channel, I'm not going to buy GTA Plus. That's how against GTA Plus I personally am. I'm just so against it.
I don't buy video game subscriptions like GTA Plus either, or Fallout First, or any of that crap.
Imagine if Rockstar put ads on GTA Online. Oh god, don't give them any ideas, Feline King. They might want to monetize the game even more.
Ads like a mobile game.
Would you take 5 million but not be able to play any games? You mean for the rest of my life? Would I take $5 million and not be able to play any games? No, I wouldn't take the $5 million. And the reason is because video games are like, you know, one of the most entertaining things, and so many new games are coming out, new stuff, and so that wouldn't make sense. It's just no. It's just like I would give up a huge part of entertaining myself for the rest of my life for just $5 million. No, thank you. And also on top of that is, my living is based off, video games that I do on my YouTube channel. So I have to, I like to do YouTube and...
Yep, that's my livelihood as well. Video games are part of my life.
Video games are a great way to escape reality. Yeah, a lot of the nonsense that goes on in real life, video games are a great way to get away from it. I did play Jedi Fallen Order, but I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet. Have you swum in a pool? Yes, several times. Okay, let me... You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go back to my, I'm just gonna go to Strawberry first. I wanna go to my moonshine and just check it out. Pro talking history, enjoy him explaining things. Well, thank you, man. I love history. It's one of my favorite subjects. Probably my favorite subject, actually.
I'm gonna get off now, okay?
You tired?
Yeah, I'm
Yes, I'd like to, Feline King. Thank you for the super
Nighttime
chat.
in the UK.
And thank you, U20.
Yeah. Okay, I'll see you later.
Oh, alright, mate. Night, night.
What was more deadly, Krakatoa or Vesuvius? What? I don't even know what either of those are. I have to Google it.
I'm going to get going. I will see you guys later. I just want to pop in here real quick.
Okay.
Oh, it's a straight in the water? Who crashed a plane? A stupid YouTuber for views. Volcanic mountains. Oh. I actually don't know that. I actually don't know much about volcanoes, so I can't answer this question.
What's this question about volcanoes?
Yes.
I'm going now. Pat, maybe if you can tomorrow, we can finish the two.
Yeah, maybe we could do the raid tomorrow.
Alright, let me know if you're available tomorrow, and we'll do it.
Was Pearson, Shandy, and other gangs for joining the Saints? I always wondered what they did. Like, what did Pearson, Shandy do during the events of Saints Row 1? I was curious about that. I wish they would have explained that a little bit.
Isn't Shandy mostly like on like a game show all the time, or I don't know, like...
Well, Shandy kind of associated with the... She wasn't like a member of the Samdi, but she kind of associated with the Samdi.
Yeah, didn't she date most of the people in Stillwater, I think, what happened?
Yeah, she was involved in a lot of relationships.
That's why she has her connections and knows what to do when it comes to
What are your plans for this Mother's Day? Well, I'm gonna call my mom because I'm not able to be in New York at the time for it. But I'm gonna call my mom. I gave her a gift. I gave her a money gift though, because I just didn't know what my mom wanted to get, and so I got her an envelope and I got her a money gift with that. And I'm gonna talk to her on that's on Sunday, right? Mother's Day is on Sunday. I think it is, yeah. Okay, let's see here. Moonshine Shack. Was your parents believing in your YouTube channel? Thank you, Fact. Well, about my parents is, and my YouTube channel, my parents are proud of me and they support me, but my parents don't fully understand what I do. They don't understand fully what I do for a living. They know it's involving something regarding games, You know, they know that I'm working, that I'm able to pay bills and stuff like that, but they are a bit confused on what it is exactly. It's not that they don't support me, but they just don't understand what I do. My mom isn't really familiar with YouTube. She's never on YouTube. My father is on YouTube. He watches like a lot of videos and stuff like that. But the thing is, my father, when he's on YouTube, he watches mostly like history documentaries. That's what he watches mostly on YouTube. My father doesn't actually watch any of my YouTube videos. And it's not that my father hates my channel or anything like that, but he just doesn't like video games in general. He just doesn't. So he's just not a gamer. He doesn't like them. Though he has watched a few of my videos. But the videos that my father has watched is he's watched the lore videos that I do on the real life GTA locations. He's watched those because he likes those, but he doesn't like video games, so he just doesn't watch really any of my videos. But that's fine. I'm not really bothered by that. I understand, you know. So he just doesn't like video games. It's not his thing.
What about like the historical video games? What does he think of those?
He doesn't really like any video games in general. He's just not a fan of them personally.
Yeah. My father's the exact same way as well. Doesn't like video games at all. He thinks that video games make people dumb. That's what my dad thinks. Especially when he found out that I was playing like video games and stuff like Black Ops 1 in the Vietnam War. He did not like that at all.
Moonshine bar dance for 2 minutes, and your father was from Vietnam, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's understandable why he wouldn't like the why he wouldn't like a game set during that conflict. Dance for 2 minutes.
But the difference is though he watched Vietnam War movies though, but he doesn't approve of the video games though.
What do I think of General Patton and MacArthur? General Patton and MacArthur are both very talented generals. However, though, MacArthur and Patton also did bad things that people don't know about. The worst thing that MacArthur did, MacArthur, he's known mostly for World War II, you know, helping to defeat the Japanese during World War II. But one of the dumb things that MacArthur did do is he, during the Korean War, MacArthur was supposed to stop North Korea from invading South Korea, and he pushed the North Koreans out of South Korea, but he didn't stop there. He just kept pushing into North Korea, and he was just supposed to kick the North Koreans out. And so he pushed into North Korea, and he kept going and going and going, and he got, like, really close to the Chinese border, and the Chinese basically said to him, you know, stop pushing or we're going to attack. But MacArthur kept pushing, and the Chinese sent like 2 million soldiers and overran the U.S. positions, and the U.S. got overrun in North Korea really quickly. And the thing is, if MacArthur hadn't pushed all the way to the Chinese border, maybe he could have actually taken North Korea without Chinese interference. But when the Chinese overran the U.S., you know, we got pushed all the way back to Seoul, and then the Chinese, I think, took Seoul. And then we retook Seoul later, and MacArthur basically was summoned by President Truman, and Truman had asked MacArthur for an update, an explanation of what's going on, and MacArthur's plan to defeat China was to drop nuclear bombs all over China. And Truman basically said, no, we're not doing this. This is stupid. And Truman fired MacArthur. So that was the dumbest thing that MacArthur did, is he almost started a nuclear war with China. China didn't have nuclear weapons at the time, but that still would have been devastating. What is it? Patton. The worst thing that Patton did. Now, Patton is known for, you know, helping to defeat the Nazis in World War II, but some bad things that Patton did is there was actually a soldier who had PTSD. They referred to it as shell shock back then, but Patton was going through a hospital, and he saw like one soldier who wasn't injured, and he asked him why he wasn't, you know, fighting, what was wrong with him specifically. And Patton, what he did was he slapped him on the back of the head, and he called him a coward when the guy was all shooken up from war. And Patton didn't seem to understand what PTSD was. And what happened is Patton was actually forced to apologize to his entire company for slapping that soldier. And Patton didn't want to do that, but he was forced to apologize, or else he would be reprimanded. But that wasn't actually the worst thing that Patton did. The worst thing that Patton did was actually when he attacked the bonus Army March. A lot of people don't know about that. Basically, what the Bonus Army March was, it was a bunch of World War I veterans who marched on Washington, D.C. to get their bonus because they were promised a bonus from the federal government, and during the Depression, they wanted their bonus now. And so these World War I veterans had marched onto Washington, D.C., and were like, they set up tents in front of the Capitol building, and they were just protesting in front of the Capitol building. What ended up happening is the I don't know why the U.S. government, for some reason, did not want to negotiate with them, made no attempts to it. Herbert Hoover, he was the president at the time, he actually authorized military force against the protesters. These were not armed protesters. These were, you know, they were trespassing because they were camping with a bunch of tents, but they weren't a threat. And so what, you know, President Hoover at the time did is he called the army in, and I think MacArthur was there actually too. It was Patton, and it was like another general there at the time. But Patton basically sent tanks in to crush the protests, and he actually used tear gas. And a lot of people got injured, and I think a few people got killed in that. And the really messed up thing about that is one of the people that Patton actually hurt at the march was actually one of the people protesting was actually one of the soldiers who saved him in World War I. So Patton had served in World War I, and one of the guys who saved his life and carried him, you know, across no man's land when he was hurt, that guy got hurt at the bonus march. So Patton hurt one of his former comrades in arms who served with him in World War I. And basically, Patton denied that he knew that guy afterwards when it was clear that he saved his life. So that was a very scummy thing that Patton did. A lot of people actually don't know about that, but just look that up. When Patton crushed the Bonus Army March, it was a horrible thing to do. And it also cost her, that was one of the reasons that Herbert Hoover actually lost the election later on. Herbert Hoover lost the 1933 election. That was, it was mainly because of that. So there's a bunch of other things, but yeah, but when you see peaceful protesters like World War I veterans get attacked by tanks, like they didn't open fire on them with machine guns, but they did bring the tanks in to just crush the tents, and they tear gassed the protesters and beat them up. When you see the government do stuff like that, beat up a bunch of veterans and use excessive force like that, like, you know, whoever called that in is going to lose the election really badly, and that's exactly what happened. So that was a messed up thing that Patton did. Let me see here. Okay, let me look at the chat. Okay. I missed a bunch of comments. I just like reading history a lot, so I'm sorry if sometimes I go off like talking too much, but it's because I like reading history a lot. Would I do a Chinatown Wars lore videos on one of these days? Yes, I have two lore videos regarding Chinatown Wars eventually planned. I have a lore video planned for Chinatown Wars. Where I'm going to show the locations in GTA 4, compare it to Chinatown Wars, and I have a second lore video where I'm going to talk about top 5 psychopaths in GTA games, and one of the characters in Chinatown Wars is going to be on that list. Thank you, DL Gaming. I think Vesuvius was the volcano that buried the city of Pompeii in 79 AD. I believe there's a movie about it. Oh, yes. So that was, so yes, it was Vesuvius. Yes, that was the volcano that buried the city of Pompeii in Rome. Are you well read on the Gilded Age of American history? If so, can you recommend good material? I don't know about specific material to recommend, but if you want to know where I get most of my history knowledge from, where I read, it's actually Wikipedia. And I know some people might be very shocked by that, but Wikipedia is actually a good source. It is for the most part. It's peer-reviewed, and people edit it. And Wikipedia is, you can really search up so many different topics, click around. If you're reading an article about a historical event that happened, you can then click, in that same article, you can click about an important person in that historical event and read about him. And so, like, that's what's so good about Wikipedia, is there's, like, so many different parts of the same history that you can read about, and just to get more in-depth knowledge of it. But that's typically where I read a lot of history from at. Now what the? Oh, great. Go away.
Are you getting attacked by an animal?
Yep, I am.
my pad on my car right now. There we go.
Do I watch Armchair Historian? I think I've seen his videos before. Let me just look him up on YouTube. Because there's so many history channels that I've watched before. Let me just see if he's if I've seen him before. Oh yeah, this guy, I've seen him before. He's the guy who makes like those really good. He makes those really good animations on all the different, you know, all the different historical periods. Yes, I've seen his channel. But I'll tell you though, my favorite history channel is not Armchair Historian. My favorite history channel is Mark Felton Productions. Anybody knows Mark Felton? Mark Felton uses like real life footage, historical footage, and he talks about the events. And his videos are very simple. Like he talks about a lot of things that you didn't know about, and some. So I think Mark Felton is personally my favorite history channel to watch.
I like watching Simple History as well. And
Simple History is good too.
yeah, it's all cartoonized, and there's also Infographic Show does some good stuff as well too. You ever heard of a channel also called Real Life Lore?
No, I haven't heard about that, Gunner. History Matters is my favorite. History Matters. Oh wait, that's the guy who makes those really short like animations, right? He makes the really short ones, like the really short videos explaining why certain things happened. British guy, right? I think I've seen his channel a bunch of times. I'll say this DLC is surprisingly less cringe than the main Saints Row 2022 story. Sure, there's one or two bad moments, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, I would agree with you. If they didn't give us the mansion, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 10, but the fact that you get a mansion at the end, I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
That DLC is way too fast. 3 missions?
Do you know about the Algonquin tribe? Not really. I don't know that much about them. Thank you, U20. I know, Isaiah, but look, the only reason that I played the Saints Row Reboot DLC, you know, people are saying that I did it for views or something like that. The reason that I played the Saints Row Reboot DLC, the reason I played through it is because I promised that I'd play through it. And I wanted to see if they actually fixed stuff in the game. I wanted to see if they actually made the stuff less cringe. That's what I was mainly trying to see in that. And I'm very honest. When I play through through a game, I'm very honest about it. If I don't like something when I'm playing through it, I'll say it right there on the playthrough. So that's how I just play through games. I don't just play through a game and then just make the review afterwards. I talk about things I don't like as I'm playing through the game directly. Thoughts on Philip Patain? Patain is a traitor. You know, Patain is a traitor, and he Patain is very lucky that he didn't get shot or hanged. He for people who don't know who Patain is a Nazi collaborator. He was the leader of France during World War II, Vichy France, I should say. So he was the leader of the Nazi puppet state in France. That's who Philip Patain was. And he was very lucky that he didn't get hanged or shot after the war. The reason he didn't...
You're riding my horse.
I am riding your horse. I'm sorry. The reason that Patain, a lot of French Nazi collaborators got hung after the war, or they got shot by firing squad. But the reason that Patain never got shot or hanged, despite him being the leader of the Nazi puppet state, is for 2 reasons. The first reason was because he was really old. And the second reason was because he was a World War I war hero. So in World War, he was very famous for his service in World War One. He was a general in World War One. He was actually one of the more smarter generals in World War One. What was it? General Nivelle? General Nivelle was that really stupid general. Pétain replaced him in World War One and did a much better job than Nivelle, and so that's what he was known for. And if it wasn't for his World War One service, he would have been hanged or shot. But that was pretty much why Pétain didn't get shot or hanged. Pétain doesn't appear in any World War II games as far as I know, but he does appear in Sniper Elite 5. In Sniper Elite 5 that takes place in Nazi-occupied France, you do see propaganda posters with Pétain's face on it. So you do see that. But I've never seen him in a World War II game. No, I can't, Kenijiro. I think you asked me this last time too, though. Do you think Roman should have had some blame of all the problems him and Nico had? When Roman blames Nico for his computer getting smashed and him getting beaten up, that was his own fault. That was pretty much his own fault. And he was the one who had gotten in debt with these people. So he got in debt with these loan sharks, but then was blaming Nico for it later on.
It's kind of funny how Roman also lied about how he had a mansion.
Yeah, I knew that he was lying before the game even came out because I read, like, magazines about all the GTA characters before the game was coming out. I remember it said specifically about Roman that he lies a lot about living a lavish lifestyle when he doesn't. Have I watched Horrible Histories? No, I haven't, Hussein.
He's got the cars, the women, the mansions. I think that's how it started out when he was on the boat, right?
Yeah, he was saying that to Hassan. That's what he was telling him about that. You can actually find Nico's friend from the ship. He's a random stranger that you can find in Algonquin later in the story. Thank you for your videos. Thank you, Mythagoras. Can we change, What was life like in the medieval era compared to Disney movies? Oh, man. Well, what I'll say about this is that and thank you, Silver Fox. Life in medieval times sucked. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But the thing about that is that you see so many movies where they romanticize, like, life in medieval times. They think that it was all cool and knights and honor and all that other stuff. But that was a terrible time to live in. It was just awful. And oh, I think I killed the target. Oh, whatever.
Yeah, medieval times is in the movies. They always make it look like it's all clean and stuff, but it's actually
yeah. Medieval cities were very dirty. They didn't even have proper sewage systems. It's not like there's very few movies that I've seen that actually portray what medieval Europe looked like. It was not clean at all, like you see in the movies.
Yeah, another example too, they try to make it look like the Wild West was clean in some of these movies as well, but the Wild West was very dirty times. Most of the people in the Wild West didn't even have very clean teeth. Their teeth was rotting, a lot of them.
Okay. No, I don't think I'd know that one, Glover. Thank you for the super chat. But, medieval European society also depended heavily on what country you lived in, because in certain countries, or kingdoms, I should say, people had better lives depending on which kingdom they lived in. But if you were a peasant in that time period, you had a horrible life. From start to finish, you had a horrible life. And, medieval Europe had the worst form of economic inequality that I think has ever existed in history. And the reason that the economic inequality was worse in medieval times than any point in history was because in medieval times, you didn't really have anything like billionaires, but you had, like, you know, people who would have been equivalent to multimillionaires back then, the aristocrats, the nobles. But here's the thing about it is that while there is economic inequality that exists today, I'm not denying it, the thing about that is that you can move up through the class system. You can move up from working class to rich. You know, if you're successful, if you get lucky, you know, you can become rich and you can become successful. But in that time period, in the medieval time period, if you lived there as a peasant, you were forbidden from moving up the classes. You could not move up the classes. The society would not let you move up the classes. And not only that, but you could actually not, you were prevented from going to college. So peasants were not allowed to go to college. Only aristocrats and aristocrats' kids were allowed to be educated and go to college. And the reason for that is because aristocrats were considered the elite class, and they were considered to be of noble blood, and so therefore they were privileged to be able to get education, but the peasants weren't allowed that. And if you were in the military in that time period, if in medieval Europe, if you were a very good soldier, you could not move your way up. You could not move up the ranks. This went all the way up to the Napoleonic era. You could not. The Napoleonic era is really what changed that. But you could not move up the ranks, even if you were a very capable soldier, even if you were a very smart soldier or talented soldier. If you were not of noble birth, if you were not of aristocratic bloodline, you were forbidden from moving up. The highest rank that you could get to is a sergeant. That's it. You could not move up higher past that. You could never become an officer. Officers were only allowed to be the aristocrats, the nobles. That's what the French Revolution mainly revolted against. It was the inequality in France and just how badly the aristocracy and the monarchy had treated the peasants.
What class would you consider yourself as, Pat?
What? Today? Just
yeah,
I would middle class. That's what I guess I would consider myself.
Yeah, I'm middle class as well. Let's see.
Hey, Pro, what do you think about the theories of LJT being Lester and Abigail also being a rat in Red Dead Redemption 2? I think the whole Abigail thing is nonsense. I don't think she was a rat. But thank you so much for the super chat, Carter's largest super chat on the stream, and you gave me largest super chat in some time too. Thank you, man. Thank you, largest super chat in a few weeks. Special shout out there to Carter. Thanks, Carter. But I don't think Abigail was a rat. No, I think that's nonsense. I don't think she ever was a rat. What was it? I'm just thinking here. The LJT is probably Lester, yes, because when you buy the arcade and you buy the what's the thing called in the arcade that lets you link all the businesses? I can't believe I forgot it now. The terminal, the big terminal thing that you can link all the businesses with. Well, anyways, when you buy that in the arcade, Lester says LJT will be proud, huh? So it's kind of obvious that he is LJT. Can you debunk the Viking myth as well? I'm Icelandic, but it was only 300 years max. What do you mean by the Viking myth? Can you explain to me what the Viking myth is, Mythagoras? Because this is the first time I've heard about Viking myth. Medieval Europe sounds more like the Wild West than a time of princesses and knights. Yeah, and I'll tell you something. Thank you, U20. In the medieval era, the aristocrats were scumbags. They were, absolute scumbags. They were terrible human beings. And the aristocrats would rob the peasants. They would steal from the peasants. The peasants barely had anything, and the aristocrats would steal most of their stuff from them. Basically, do you know who really despised feudalism? That was the system that was in medieval Europe. Ben Franklin. He's the guy who's on the $100 bill. He was one of the American founding fathers. He really despised feudalism. About it is that's what Ben Franklin actually means when he says those who sacrifice their liberty for security deserve neither. He was referring to the feudalistic times. But basically, what happened in that time period and how these aristocrats got so much power is that in ancient Rome, peasants actually had more rights than they did under the under medieval kingdoms. Basically, what happened was during the Roman Empire, Rome would mostly protect its citizens. So the Roman Empire had a very strong military, and so if you were, oh, stranger here? This is probably an ambush.
My leg. I can't hardly walk. I need some help to town, please. You're gonna help me, right? Oh, thank you. Whew. Ha. I got you.
Nope.
Now you're the one who's gonna be.
Oh, they're already dead? Okay.
Yeah, right now I'm taking out a gang hideout.
Damn, okay. Die here, okay. And I'll continue from what I left off in a moment here about Rome. Okay. Now, what I was saying,
Hello?
okay, get
today
away from
Red
these
Dead
guys.
Day?
Yeah, streaming Red Dead right now. Okay, so
Oh,
now,
okay.
what I was saying earlier about Rome is that when Rome had controlled most of Western Europe, basically, Rome had kept its citizens safe for the most part, and peasants had greater rights. And so, if you were like a Roman citizen, and you were going from like, you know, one town to the next town, it was largely safe for the most part, because Roman soldiers patrolled the roads. But what happened was when Rome collapsed, there was no more security. There was no more soldiers to protect the people. And so what happened was Europe actually fell into anarchy. There was several years in Europe where there was no government whatsoever. And what happened was you had like small city-states that started forming, like small city governments. And in between the towns, you had massive groups of bandits, highwaymen. Highwaymen were basically people in that time period who would hide on the road. They would wait until you were vulnerable, and then they would ambush you. And they'd oftentimes kill you and take your stuff. Sometimes they'd let you go, but oftentimes they'd kill you and take your stuff. And so these bandits got out of control. And then what actually ended up happening is the barbarians invaded the rest of Rome. And what happened is the barbarians were just basically just killing anybody that was on the roads. And so roads were just crawling with just barbarians, with highwaymen, and so people got scared, and they didn't know what to do because there was no Roman soldiers to protect them. And so what people ended up doing is they turned to the aristocrats. The aristocrats were rich people during the Roman times. They turned to the aristocrats for help. What the aristocrats did was the aristocrats built a village. And the village that they built, they had like a big manor, a big mansion. And that's where the aristocrat would live. The noble would live there. And the aristocrat would basically build like a big wall around that village. And the aristocrat would bring a bunch of peasants in here. And he would tell the peasants, oh, you know, you come work for me here, you'll be safe. My knights will protect you from barbarians and highwaymen or whoever else tries to kill you. And what happened is the aristocrat also had a bunch of knights that would be on these walls. But here's the thing. The knights weren't really meant to protect the peasants. They were instead meant to keep the peasants there. Because once you signed up with the aristocrat and you agreed to live on the manor, that's what they were called, manors, you really couldn't leave. It was a scam, basically. And so what would happen is the peasants didn't even own the land. The huts that the peasants got, they didn't even own. And so what the aristocrat would do is him and his knights would basically go to every single peasant that's living on that manor. And since most peasants were farmers, the aristocrat would then tell the peasant, give me 70% of your crops. Very similar to actually what the communists did in the Soviet Union. So literally the aristocrats would go to each of the peasants and they would just say, give me 70% of your crops, and they would just take it. And what the aristocrats would do is they would sell these crops, and then what they would do is they would take a huge cut of it for themselves, but they would give a cut of that to the king also. And so that's how kings funded their armies back then, is the aristocrats ran these manors, they stole from the peasants, and then they would give a cut of their earnings from the peasants to the king. That's basically how monarchies in Europe had funded themselves back then. And this was kind of similar to feudal Japan in a way too. Because in Japan, a lot of people look at the samurai in Japan as like these honorable guys that always did the right thing and stuff like that. But the thing about the samurai is the samurai were a little bit different than medieval Europe, because in medieval Europe, knights were just typically soldiers, where the samurai were soldiers and aristocrats. They were nobles as well. And so what happened is the samurai would go into villages and they would basically steal from the peasants all the time. They could force their way into a peasant's home and just take whatever they wanted. Samurai would do that all the time. And here's the thing. In feudal Japan, a samurai could actually cut a peasant's head off if he felt that the peasant insulted the samurai. So the samurai were scumbags a lot of times. They weren't good people as like is portrayed in like movies and stuff like that. They hurt a lot of poor people. But a lot of people don't know about that. But that's basically how Europe was like for hundreds of years. And so, was it really worth sacrificing your freedom for security? Was it really worth it, like what those peasants did to protect themselves from barbarians and highwaymen? I don't think so. I don't think so, because they got scammed in the end by the aristocrats. So that's why the French ended up killing so many aristocrats during the French Revolution hundreds of years later, because they got so tired of the aristocrats' entitlement and the aristocrats bankrupting their country and stealing from them. Weren't punishments extreme in medieval times? Yes, they were. They were very extreme. There's times people would get boiled alive. People would be stretched out. They had their arms and legs ripped off. It was very brutal. Thank you, Bunny. Thank you, Mythagoras. Thank you for the super chat, man. Let me see here. The common myth is that we're strong, whereas we're common. Well, I don't know much about that myth, Mythagoras, but what I can tell you is that the Vikings in Europe. Do you know why the Vikings actually became so strong? The reason the Vikings actually became so strong is because they didn't take over land. That's the reason. And you're probably thinking, wait, the Vikings didn't take over land? How does that make them strong? Because think about it. When you take over land, you stretch your resources. You stretch resources. You have to have soldiers to cover that land and hold that land. The Vikings weren't really conquerors. Instead, they were more of, I would say, looters. That's probably what you would call them. They would call them pillagers, looters, pillagers, kind of like that. Because what the Vikings would do is the Vikings invaded like England. They invaded France, they invaded Scotland, they invaded Ireland, but they didn't really conquer England. They didn't really conquer Scotland. They didn't really conquer Ireland. They didn't conquer France either. What did the Vikings do? What the Vikings would do is they would typically land in a kingdom like England. They would go to a bunch of English towns. They would burn the towns down probably. They would threaten the people, and basically they would tell the people, give us gold, give us jewelry, give us your valuables and stuff like that, or we're going to kill you. And so people would basically come out and give the Vikings all their stuff, and the Vikings would leave. And then what would happen is the Vikings would then probably come back like a few months later and say, give us your stuff if you don't want us to kill you again. And that it would just repeat and rinse. And so that's how the Vikings became so rich, is they just kept, the Vikings didn't really, they did some killings, but they didn't really mass murder everybody that they saw, because the Vikings knew if they killed somebody, they could only get what they got off that person, because you can't really collect money from a dead person. You can collect what they had, but you can't keep collecting over and over and over again. So the Vikings would just constantly come back, and people would be forced to give them stuff. And that's how the Vikings became so rich and powerful, because they basically just kept all their resources in, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, those countries were Denmark, where they typically were located. So they wouldn't really, conquer. They would instead just take a bunch of money, steal gold, jewelry, other stuff, and then sail back to wherever they came from. That's what the Vikings were like mostly. I hope I answered your question a little bit there, Mythagoras. They got robbed and are supported by the robbers against other robbers. None has to dream about Vikings. What? Well, I'm a bit confused what you mean. Hey, Mario. Okay, I will play Medal of Honor. I will play Medal of Honor, I'll play Medal of Honor,
Frontline.
Airborne, later in the year, but Frontline will be next month.
Oh yeah, you should do that on June 6, 2023 for June 6, 1944's infantry. That'd be a good one.
Who is my favorite Polish leader in history? My favorite Polish leader in history would have to be Kościuszko. Kościuszko did so much because Kościuszko was both a founding father and a hero to Poland. So Kościuszko was a Polish general that was actually in the Revolutionary War. He helped the Patriots tremendously. He was one of the founders of the U.S. Kościuszko also did a lot of good because Kościuszko was a very big abolitionist. Like, he really hated slavery, and he tried his best to make slavery illegal in America. He wasn't successful. He opened schools for freed African Americans. When he died, Kościuszko was also a very rich man. When he died, he left a lot of money to help fund African American schools. What he did also is he went back to Poland after a Revolutionary War, and he tried to lead a revolution against the Russians and kick them out of Poland, but he failed. And so he did a lot of good things in both America and in Poland. So I think Kościuszko is probably the best Polish leader in my opinion, probably the best one, because a lot of the Polish kings in history were very corrupt and scummy. Kościuszko wasn't a king; he was just a general, and I think he was probably the best Polish leader in my opinion. What was it also? Kościuszko also has a bridge named after him in Brooklyn, New York, I think. And he has a statue, I think, in Washington, D.C. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's, Why weren't South America in World War II? Technically, they were. Brazil declared war on, Germany, I think, 2 weeks before Germany collapsed, so if you count that. But most South American countries didn't really declare war on Germany until the very end. Probably because the war was just so far from them. Today's actually my birthday. Oh, happy birthday, Intense Robbie. I agree with you. Thank you, Mythagoras. Why wasn't Spain involved in World War II? Spain wasn't involved in World War II for two reasons. The first reason was that Spain was recovering from its civil war that it had. Spain just recently won its civil war in the late 30s, and so most of Spain was still destroyed, and Spain didn't really have the capabilities to fight a world war. And the second reason that Spain wasn't involved in the second reason that Spain wasn't involved in World War II, it was because Spain was a fascist country during World War II. That's what people don't know. Spain was really the last fascist country in Europe. It was. Fascism in Europe actually didn't end with the fall of Nazi Germany. Fascism in Europe actually ended with the death of Francisco Franco in the late 70s. So he was the dictator of Spain. The Nazis actually helped him come to power. In the Spanish Revolution, and Franco had supported Nazi Germany during the war. He didn't, fight on their side, but he sent volunteers over. He sent them supplies over. But here's the thing about this is, the reason that Franco didn't provide more support to Germany during World War II is because Franco and Hitler hated each other. They despised each other. So even though Spain and Germany were both fascist countries, Italy was another fascist country. But here's the thing is, there's a very big difference between Italian fascism, German fascism, and Spanish fascism. Italian fascism kind of revolved around more of the Roman Empire, and it wasn't really race-based initially. Later on, Italy changed its laws to become more race-based because of pressure from Nazi Germany, where Nazi Germany, their entire system of fascism was all based on race. It was all based on the Aryan race. That's what it was all pretty much based on. Spain's fascism had nothing to do with race. Spain's fascism was revolved around the Catholic Church. So Spain was a Catholic, fascist country. where Germany was all about the Aryan race. It was race-based. There was a big difference between them. And what happened is that Nazi Germany despised Catholics. They really hated Catholics. And the Nazis actually shut down a lot of Catholic schools. They had a lot of priests murdered. A lot of priests were actually sent to concentration camps during World War II. And the Nazis actually took crosses out of schools. And this is coming from somebody who's an agnostic. I'm not really a Christian. But the Nazis really just did not like Catholicism. They really didn't like it. So you can just look up all these laws. They really hated Catholicism. They were more tolerant towards Lutheranism, but they didn't like Lutheranism either. And so that's one of the reasons that fascist Spain actually didn't like fascist Germany, because of Germany's discrimination against the Catholic Church. What happened was the Vatican signed a peace treaty with Nazi Germany. And they signed this peace treaty in like the late 1930s, and basically it was that Nazi Germany recognizes the Vatican, recognizes like the Catholic Church, and in exchange the Catholic Church recognizes Nazi Germany as like the rulers of Germany. But here's the thing about this is the Nazis did not follow this treaty. They didn't. You know, just like every single other treaty, any kind of treaty that you sign with the Nazis is basically a garbage. They're not going to respect any kind of treaty. And so even though the Nazis signed a treaty to leave the Catholic Church alone, they went after the Catholic Church. They still shut them down. They heavily discriminated against Catholics. They despised Catholics. And so this is one of the reasons that fascist Spain didn't like, you know, Nazi Germany, because of just their treatment of Catholics. Because, like I said, fascist Spain was a Catholic fascist country. And I'm not defending fascist Spain. You know, they were bad also. They weren't as bad as, you know, Germany, but they were also bad. But that's the reason that that fascist Spain actually didn't like Germany, was because of their discrimination against Catholics. So that's to answer your question. That's why Spain didn't get involved in World War II. It was because of that. And also, Franco kind of played both sides in the conflict. And he was also scared that Germany could potentially invade Spain. So that's why he tried to appease Hitler when he got the chance to. Okay. Let's see here.
Tiny question on that. Did Spain give Germany, like, weapons and equipment and vehicles?
I'm sure they gave something, but what Spain was mostly known for is they gave Germany volunteers. So volunteers were sent from... So Spain basically said, we'll send volunteers over to you. It wasn't like an actual army, but like any Spanish person that wanted to go and like help Germany in their fight, you know, in Russia. Franco had allowed them to. Franco forbid any Spanish volunteers from fighting the British or the French, but he allowed volunteers to fight the Soviets, because Franco hated the Soviets more than he hated Hitler. So that was that's pretty much what that was about.
I was wondering because I'm kind of going off memory. I might be misremembering, but I think I may have seen some examples of pictures of Germany having some Italian stuff, and I don't remember, like, did they steal it, or was it given?
What, you mean Italian? I'm talking about Spain, though.
Sorry, not Italian. Yeah, I totally said the wrong country. I don't know why.
And here's the thing that I'll tell you guys about something. So I'll tell you guys something about World War II that people don't know about. During World War II, Germany had no friends during World War II. There was no country that they were friends with, because Germany had allies during World War II, but they had no friends. And what I mean by that is that every single country that was an ally of Germany still considered themselves superior to them. And Germany would push their allies around, so Germany would treat their allies like garbage. Their own allies who helped them, other countries, they treated them like garbage. The Italians, for example, the Italians were just, they were treated like garbage. The Germans were very racist against the Italians as well, and they just despised each other. They didn't like each other. They were allied together because Mussolini allied with Hitler mostly because he wanted to gain land in Europe. He thought that Germany was going to win the war, and so that's why he mainly allied with Germany. Mussolini wasn't a good man. I'm not saying he was, but I'm saying that's the reason that Mussolini allied with Germany. It wasn't an ideological thing. It was more of just the fact that he thought that Germany was going to win the war, and Mussolini wanted to conquer Greece, he wanted to conquer the Balkans, and he wanted to create like an Italian empire in Africa. And that's pretty much why Mussolini had allied with Hitler. Mussolini later regretted the allying with Hitler, but then at that point, the war was pretty much lost for him. But there's in Sniper Elite 3. Sniper Elite 3 takes place in North Africa, and there's a lot of like you fight a lot of Italian soldiers in that game, and you actually see the interactions between the Germans and the Italians in that game, which I actually really like that the developers put that in, and it actually shows you just how the Germans treated their Italian allies, how they treated them like garbage. There's one part in the game where the Germans are in this big fortress, and the Italian army has to sleep in tents outside, and this is the desert at night in North Africa, so it gets much colder at night. And so the Italian soldiers are complaining how the Germans actually won't let them sleep in the warm fort, and they instead are stuck outside in the cold. Very, very realistic. A situation like that would definitely happen. So so Germany really never had any friends during World War II, because every single person they had as considered an ally, they still treated them like garbage. Japan did the same thing, by the way. Japan really had no friends in World War II either. Every single other, ally that they had in Asia, they treated like garbage too. So even Thailand, which Thailand was more friendly to Japan, Japan even treated Thailand like garbage. So it was that, Japan and Germany really never had any friends in the war. Also, a really messed up thing that happened is that during the Battle of Stalingrad, when the winter had actually kicked in and it was getting really bad, what happened was the Italians had some trucks that the Germans didn't have some trucks, because Hitler was forbidding any kind of retreat in Stalingrad. He wasn't allowing any kind of retreat, and so the Italians weren't really part of that command, and they wanted to start pulling out. They wanted to start getting out of there. And so do you know what the Nazis did? The Nazis actually held up their own allies. So they robbed the Italian army of their own supplies, and what they did was they stole the Italian army trucks, and they left the Italians there to freeze to death in Russia. So they literally left them there to freeze. So the Nazis would hijack their own allies' trucks, and they just left their Italian allies basically just there to freeze to death. So that's to show you that the Germans never really had any friends in World War II. Every single person that was considered an ally, they still treated like they still acted like they were superior above them, and they treated them like garbage. Did they ever cross paths with the Japanese? During World War II, well, if you watch my playthrough of Sniper Elite 5, because in Sniper Elite 5, it actually shows a lot of communication between the Nazis and the Japanese. The Nazis and the Japanese did actually have communication during World War II. It wasn't a lot, but they did actually communicate a little bit. And what they did was they exchanged goods mostly through submarines. So Japanese submarines would arrive in France, and the Germans would exchange goods. The Japanese, I think, paid in gold bars, and the Germans would give them technology. They gave them some rockets. They gave them some prototype weapons. I think it was something like that. They gave the Japanese radar. I think that's what the Nazis gave the Japanese. They gave them radar. So that was, but a lot of the technology that Japan got from Germany never got to Japan, because the Japanese submarines got sunk in Southeast Asia before they could actually get to Japan. So Japan never got a lot of that Nazi technology. But the Nazis did give the Japanese some technology.
I wouldn't be surprised if Germany was trying to get, because Japan was the only country to try this. It was a prototype, it never made it into service. But they were attempting to create a submarine or submersible, kind of like a U-boat. But it contained aircraft, and it had a catapult to launch them off. And it was kind of like having a torpedo.
A catapult to launch a plane?
Well, it's not like medieval catapult. It's not quite the same style of catapult we have on our modern carriers, but it was some kind of aircraft launching device, let's say.
Well, the Japanese arguably had the best navy in World War II.
But it was an interesting concept that they were trying to do there. I'm surprised no one else was trying to do that. Being able to sneak some aircraft over and then launch them and do a bit of a raid and then take them back under the water like it never happened.
That also another thing I forgot to mention about Italy is in World War II, when in 1943, after the disaster at I found him, he's right here. After the disaster of at Stalingrad, the war at that point was when Germany lost Stalingrad, basically at that point they were losing the war. So up until Stalingrad, the Nazis were actually winning the war, but when they lost Stalingrad, they started losing the war. Because Germany was on the offensive the entire time. Now they were on the defensive. And what happened is the King Emmanuel, he was the king of Italy. Italy was a weird country during World War II because it had a dictator and a king. Mussolini Mussolini was in control of the armed forces, and he could generally do what he wanted to do, but the king really had more power than him, technically. And so what happened was the reason that Italy had a dictator and a king, how that happened, was because after World War I, Italy was in ruin. Like, Italy was just destroyed after World War I. And what happened was Italy was originally a Central Powers ally, so they were an ally of Germany and Austria-Hungary in World War I. The reason that Italy changed sides is because they didn't feel like they were going to gain anything from being in the Central Powers, where Austria-Hungary actually controlled parts of northern Italy still, and so the Italians wanted that back. And that's mainly why they had switched sides to the Allies in World War I. And what happened is the Italian king had basically promised that if the Italians had like won World War I, that we would be victorious, our country would be prosperous, everything would be great. And what happened is they won World War I. A lot of Italians died. You had hundreds of thousands of Italians that died in World War I. The Italian campaign was brutal in the mountains. And what ended up happening is after World War I, Italy was just in rubble. Like, there were so many places that were destroyed, like train tracks were blown up, schools were blown up, hospitals were blown up, roads were destroyed, bridges destroyed, and this happened in the mid-1920s, so even 5-6 years after World War I, all this stuff was still blown up, and the king wasn't doing anything to fix any of that stuff. He wasn't fixing any of it. And so what happened was the Italian public got really, really mad. Like, the Italian public started getting really angry, and they were about to have a revolution. Like, they were literally about to have a revolution to overthrow the king. And the king was scared that his people were going to overthrow him, and so Mussolini then went up to the king, because Mussolini was leading the Black Shirts at the time, and so Mussolini, he was part of the Socialist Party in World War I, but then eventually he founded the Italian Fascist Party. And what happened is Mussolini went to the Italian king, and he said to him, you put me in charge, put me as prime minister for life, and I'll fix all these problems in the country, I'll fix all the infrastructure, and I'll make the people happy and everything like that. And so the king, Emanuele, made Mussolini dictator of Italy. And that's how Mussolini basically came to power, is the king made him dictator because the king was incompetent and didn't know what he was doing. And what ended up happening is when Germany lost Stalingrad, King Emanuele realized, he's like, oh crap, this is going really bad. Eventually, they're going to come for me. And so King Emanuele switched sides, and he went to the Allies. And the reason that King Emanuele switched sides, it's not because he realized the Nazis were evil. He was perfectly fine with being on the side of the Nazis up until the point that they were winning. When he realized that they weren't winning, that's when he tried to switch sides. So he did do the right thing by switching sides, but the reason that he switched sides mainly wasn't because he realized the Nazis were evil, it was because he realized the Nazis were losing. And so what King Emanuele did is he reached out to the Allies, and he talked to the Allies, and he said to them, he's like, hey, can I remain king of Italy? I will switch sides if I can remain king of Italy. What do you want me to do? And they said to him, if you want to stay king of Italy, arrest Mussolini and get rid of him. That's what the Allies basically said. And so King Emanuele at that point had Mussolini arrested. He was put in a mountain prison. And what ended up happening is Germany declared war on Italy immediately after that happened, after Mussolini got arrested. And the Nazis were so angry at Italy for switching sides that all the Italian soldiers that were on the Eastern Front, the Nazis captured them and executed thousands of them. Like, the Nazis just started executing, Italian soldiers, like, in mass numbers, because they were just so ready, and they murdered so many Italian soldiers. And what ended up happening is Germany invaded Italy, and they took over all of Italy within just a few weeks. They just took over the whole country. And what happened is King Emanuele fled, and the Fallschirmjägers, which were the Nazi paratroopers. The Nazi paratroopers actually landed in the prison, the prison in the mountains. They landed in the prison, and they busted Mussolini out of prison. And they had Mussolini create a fascist puppet state that was mainly controlled by Germany, called the Italian Social Republic. And so Mussolini ran that puppet Italian state for the next 2 years until his fall. So that's basically what happened. Italy changed sides, but then Mussolini was put in prison, and then he was released from prison by the Nazis. And it's a long history there. The what am I thinking of here? I'm just thinking of something else. What Germany also did is Germany had they had annexed parts of northern Italy. So they annexed parts of northern Italy for that too. So they stole parts of Italian land. I think that land was returned to Italy after the war. But yeah, Mussolini at that point had given up. Even though Mussolini had been broken out of prison, he had given up because he realized the war was over. Like, he still remained as puppet leader, but he was like in a massive depressive state for the rest of the war because he realized it was only a matter of time before the war was over. Hitler, on the other hand, was fully confident that he was going to win the war until the last 2 weeks of the war. That's when he realized that it was over and he was done. But that's basically the whole history of Italy during World War II and why they switched sides. Let me
Hello,
see here.
Fernando.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, you should check out that video I sent to the group. It's actually a really funny glitch that was happening when Pat
Let me
was
look.
holding the bounty.
What
Okay,
do
I'll
you
check it out. Hold on.
what do you know of the Norman invasion of England? The Norman invasion of England. I actually don't really know that much about it. I'm assuming you mean the Normans from Normandy? I don't know. I actually don't know that much about it, Glover. Do you think the worst mistake America ever made was the Manhattan Project? You know, I wish that nuclear weapons wouldn't have been made in the first place because nuclear weapons are like literally, it's just so scary that just the entire world could be ended with a push of a button. Thank you, U-20. The Soviet Union had spies during the Manhattan Project. What if the Allies couldn't stop Japan from reaching Australia in the Battle of Midway? Well, the thing about it is that in the Battle of Midway, if the U.S. hadn't stopped Japan, Japan would have what Japan would have done is they would have taken over Midway Island. I don't really think they would have invaded Australia. I think they would have taken Midway Island, and what Japan would have done is they would have used Midway Island as a staging ground to invade Hawaii. So Japan could have very much taken Hawaii. If they took Midway Island, they could have had grounds to invade Hawaii, and Japan could have possibly taken Hawaii. So that's why Midway Island was so the Battle of Midway was so important specifically because of that. The Battle of Midway, I think the Battle of Midway is considered the largest naval battle in history. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's considered the largest naval battle of World War II, I believe. So literally, you hear about Stalingrad a lot. Like, you hear about Stalingrad, you hear the Battle of Kursk, but you don't really hear about the Battle of Midway because people say Stalingrad was the turning point, which it was, but Stalingrad was a turning point in Europe. Midway was a turning point in Asia, so it was in the Pacific. So Midway was the turning point when Japan started losing. Like, Japan lost, like, I think two carriers in the Battle of Midway. So it was the Midway was a disaster for Japan. It was a horrible disaster for them. Oh, thank you, U20, for the super chat. I didn't read your super chat. It was retracted. What did you say? Thank you, Carter, for that super chat. Will Japan acknowledge their war crimes they committed in World War II? Not fully. Japan has admitted to some of the war crimes that they've committed, but this is what people don't know about Japan. Japan is a very peaceful country today. It's nothing like it was like, you know, during World War II, because during World War II, Japan was like an evil monster. It was just invading every single country in Asia and just committing horrible atrocities and just murdering so many people. You know, Japanese Empire killed millions of people. But even though Japan is such a peaceful country today, it's one of the most peaceful countries in Asia. It's a much better country than what it was during World War II. But despite that, though, Japan denies a lot of its war crimes today. And Japan also has statues dedicated to Japanese war criminals. There was that, and the thing about that is that a lot of the Japanese generals were very unremorseful. Like, they didn't care. Like after the war, like they didn't realize what they did was they didn't realize what they did was evil, or I don't think they even cared. But what I'll say about the Japanese and the Nazis, though, because the Japanese had their own version of Nuremberg. It was called the Tokyo War Tribunals. And do you know what actually happened? When the Nazis were put on trial for their atrocities, the Holocaust and the horrible things that they had done, do you know what the Nazis' defense most of the time was for that? Their defense was that we were following orders. That was their defense. It's not a defense. That was what the Nazis had claimed. They claimed, no, we're not guilty. We were just following orders. We had to. We had no choice. You still did it. You still did it in the end. You chose to follow out the orders. You still committed a horrible atrocity. It's not a defense. And at Nuremberg, it was ruled that's not a defense. You can't claim that you're following orders and then proceed to commit atrocities. Japan, during the Tokyo War Tribunals, when the Japanese generals were put on trial and they were asked, why did you commit these horrible atrocities? Their defense was actually a little bit different. Where the Nazis, they were claiming that we were following orders. The Japanese, on the other hand, were claiming that, oh, the generals were claiming, I didn't do that, my soldiers did that. That's what the Japanese generals claimed most of the time. They said, I didn't commit those atrocities, my soldiers committed those atrocities. And so the Japanese generals were saying, I didn't give an order to pillage. I didn't give an order to burn buildings down. I didn't give an order to commit rapes or murders or, you know, beheadings or any of that. My soldiers just did that when they entered cities and stuff like that. But here's the thing about this, is that even if that was true, one of the first rules in the military is you are responsible for what your soldiers do. As a commanding officer, you are responsible for your men and what your men do. And if your soldiers are going around raping, murdering, burning stuff down, and you do absolutely nothing about it, you don't punish them, you don't stop it, you have them hung, shot for what they're doing, you are just as guilty as them if you don't stop it. So even if that's true, that they didn't order it, but it was just their soldiers who did it, they're still guilty of that. That's not a defense, but that's what the Japanese generals would claim. They would say, "Oh, I didn't do that. My soldiers did that." So it's not a defense. It's not. You can't claim something like that. What is the difference between battery and assault? Battery is much worse than assault. Battery would be like if you punch somebody. Assault would be more like you pushed or you spit on someone. It would be a lot less worse. Hideki Tojo was the most evil in Japan. Yes, Tojo was the most evil Japanese man in history. So out of all the Japanese leaders in history, Tojo was definitely the most evil one. I agree with you on there. But that was but the thing about it is that I don't believe these Nazi commanders who were like claiming that they were just following orders. I don't believe that. They not only followed the orders, they liked the orders too. They were perfectly fine with doing that. They never showed any kind of remorse for their actions. They were just horrible human beings. They deserve to get hanged and they deserve to get shot. A lot of the Nazi commanders had gotten hung after the war. Isn't assault attacking somebody? It is, but it's not as bad as battery. Battery is worse. I'm gonna make more GTA lore videos, yes. Man, I loved Rockstar's take at Hillary Clinton in GTA 4. You forgot to mention in your video on her that she was the yeah. I mean, yeah, but I wasn't trying to get too much into politics, Mario. Yes, but I'm gonna finish Rockay City soon. I don't have that many parts of it left. Let me see here.
How long until you go play poker, Pat?
Probably like 10 more minutes. In 10 minutes, I'll probably play poker.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go order some food very soon.
Yeah, but I'll tell you guys something else. I'll tell you guys something else. There's propaganda that the Nazis had actually pushed after World War II had ended. And this propaganda originally was created by a lot of Nazis. And basically, a lot of this propaganda, unfortunately, people believe it to this day too. But some of the lies that Germany basically created was one of the things that some people actually believe. I don't know how anybody could actually believe this, but some people actually believe that the Wehrmacht, the German army, the standard German army, they believe that the Wehrmacht actually wasn't responsible for atrocities in World War II. Could I ride the horse, Michael? They believe that it was
Yeah,
the SS who did that, which I'll tell you that is a load of nonsense. The SS were the worst of the Nazi regime. They were the most evil. They were the most fanatical to the regime. But the Wehrmacht also committed a lot of war crimes. They committed a lot of horrible atrocities. There was one of the worst things the Wehrmacht actually did was the Wehrmacht the destruction of Warsaw in World War II. So what actually happened was in August of 1944, the Red Army was approaching in Poland, and the Nazis were in full retreat. And what happened was the Polish underground had basically staged an uprising to try to kick the Nazis out of Warsaw. It was the Warsaw Uprising. It was considered the largest uprising in World War II. What happened was the uprising initially was successful right at the start because they actually kicked the Nazis out of the city. But what happened was the Nazis later came back into the city with tanks, and they took the city back. And what happened was when the Nazis took the city back, they murdered a lot of Polish people. Like, they killed a lot of Polish people. And the Nazis were so cruel that if a German soldier was killed by the Polish resistance, what the Nazis would do is they would just take 10 random Polish people off the streets and just hang them. So they equaled the 10 Polish lives were equal to the life of one German. That's how cruel the Nazis were. And what happened is after the this was the Wehrmacht who did this, the standard German army. And after the Hitler was so angry, so furious, a lot of the survivors actually got marched off to concentration camps. Hitler was so furious about the Polish uprising that what he did was he ordered the entire city of Warsaw to actually be destroyed with flamethrowers. And so what the Nazis did was Warsaw was the most destroyed city in all of World War II. It was even more destroyed than Stalingrad, because Stalingrad was destroyed mostly through bombs and like fighting each other. But Warsaw, on the other hand, was destroyed deliberately. It was destroyed on purpose. Civilian infrastructure was targeted specifically on purpose. And so Nazi flamethrower troopers literally went door to door, just burning down buildings, and they burned down like 95% of Warsaw, just burning Polish people alive while they were in their homes hiding. And this was the German Wehrmacht who did this, the standard German army. So whenever I hear people say this stupid German propaganda, they say that, oh, you know, it was the SS who mostly did it. It wasn't the Wehrmacht. The Wehrmacht was, you know, they were just mostly forced to do it. You know, they were just forced into the army. They weren't Nazis. I'm not saying every German was a Nazi, but the Wehrmacht had committed some really, really horrible things, and they are not innocent by any means. So when I hear this nonsense that people say that it was mostly the SS and the Wehrmacht were innocent, no, it's not true. This was the Wehrmacht who did that, burning Polish people alive in their homes. So that's propaganda that you hear oftentimes, and people believe this. Like I said, another lie that people believe about World War II is a lot of people actually think that the German public didn't know about the Holocaust going on. That's another, a lie that people say. The German public knew that the Holocaust was going on. Huge amounts of the public knew, because even if they didn't know, directly about the gassing, they knew that those people were being killed. Because what happened was you had people who were just being taken away. People were being taken away. They were being taken away, put on trains. People were vanishing. Gestapo were coming to take, hundreds of thousands of people were disappearing. It's like anybody puts two and two together, you can figure out what's happening. And the thing is, where these camps were actually located in Germany, death has a very specific smell. When in law enforcement, cops are trained specifically to smell death. Dead bodies have a specific type of smell. And what happened is these camps, they were burning so many bodies, that smell went on for miles and miles and miles and miles. And so there were so many German towns that knew of that smell, and they knew exactly what was going on. So when people say the German public didn't know that, the Holocaust was going on, or they didn't know, maybe not every German knew, but huge amounts of the German public did definitely know that something was going on. There's definitely proof that people knew about it. The thing is, the reason that people say they didn't know about the Holocaust going on is because they don't want to be held responsible for it. That's probably, it's the shame of it. That's the primary reason. But they knew that it was going on. They definitely did. So that's another, lie that you hear people say, that the German public didn't know. They did know. They definitely knew that something was going on. Okay, let me get this guy here. Okay, get these guys here. Continue my history talk in a moment here. It's a bunch of enemies. Michael, where are you right now?
I got the other guy.
Oh, okay. Can you help me clear these guys out? There's just a lot of them right now.
Yep. Oh, the other guy's right there.
I killed him. It's okay. I'll just carry him like that. Okay, let's take him to the station.
Can I join through y'all?
Sure, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
think-
gonna be playing poker in a few minutes, though.
I just got back.
Okay,
I
let's
see
see
you've
here.
been playing the Sniper Elite Zombies.
Yes, and well, I just got back from the shooting range, so I had fun.
So
Okay.
that's why you've been absent for most of the stream. Went to the shooting range.
Yeah, and I had to drop my friend out. Like, he lives in like 30 minutes away from me. So a little bit of drive, but
Let me just missed a bunch of comments. Let me just see here.
I'll deliver the alive guy.
I hope futuristic vehicles stay out of GTA 6. They add anything like the Oppressor in GTA 6. I hope it's only obtainable through a really crazy mission. Well, thank you, Bunny. Thank you for the super chat. I hope that futuristic garbage stays out too.
yeah, it shouldn't belong in like modern games.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if some of the stuff in GTA Online is not canon. If they're gonna do something like that when GTA 6 is released.
Oh, I just clicked the wrong button. What the heck?
Take this guy to the wagon.
I meant to
Well, the
join something.
Manchukuo was mainly a puppet state of Japan and China. That's pretty much what it was. Elder Scrolls 6, hell, probably not for a few more years. I wonder what Bethesda is doing.
Hey, zombie, can you send me an invite?
Yeah, I already sent you one. It's
Oh,
weird.
okay. Oh, it's not.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh well, I was talking mostly about Europe. I should have said Europe, that it was the most destroyed city in World War II. But Warsaw was the most destroyed city in World War II.
I always thought it was like somewhere in like.
A lot of people
between,
think it's
fall
Stalingrad because of the battle, but it was actually Warsaw because it was the entire city was intentionally destroyed.
Yeah, remember the Warsaw Pact?
Oh, I took Halo out. I took Halo out on the last part. I'm gonna upload it soon. Okay, I'm glad the capture card I recommended helped you out. Prison wagon. Let's see how far is it here. No, I haven't watched City of God.
Yeah, I see all these pictures of Warsaw during World War II. It looks like a
Yeah,
scorched earth.
Warsaw was literally 95% of Warsaw was destroyed in World War II. Like literally, just look up how many buildings it was destroyed, and you'll see it says 95% of the city was just completely destroyed in World War II.
Especially the black and white photos just make this everything look so haunting.
Feed my horse here.
Ooh, 333.
What do you know about Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim? Mannerheim was the leader of Finland during World War II. I actually do not know that much about him. I know that Mannerheim had met with Hitler before, and there was actually a secret recording where Mannerheim secretly recorded Hitler. There was a recording of that on a train. But I don't know much more about Mannerheim. I know he led Finland during the Winter War and then later on in the Continuation War. No, I'm not saying that, Mario. I was talking mostly about Europe when I was saying that, the European theater of the war. Let me get over here. Let's see. Where am I going? Go to Armadillo here.
Hey, Pro.
What's up?
If you could be a better leadership than Dutch, what would you do? Like in
Stop
situation?
committing so many violent acts. Because it keeps drawing more attention on themselves. Dutch's plan is so stupid. He's like, we need to create a bunch of noise and then we slip out. It's like creating a noise is gonna get a lot of attention on you in the first place.
I have similar ideas too. If I was a better leadership than Dutch.
Was that the Norwegian ship, Silver Fox? I'd have to look it up. I heard that ship's name before.
Hey, can you do the best Dutch impression?
I probably would suck at it.
We're gonna borrow a little old money from old Uncle Sam and be out of his hair once and for all.
That's what he sounds like.
Okay, see here. Dan Brooks.
Yeah, I wouldn't do the fair job. And I wouldn't get Micah to join the gang. Like I would not trust Micah at all.
Micah.
Okay, get over this hideout here. Okay.
What was that? Nothing doing here.
Oh, okay, it's a teammate right there.
He's inside. Okay. Hello.
I wonder who even lived at these houses originally, because this house is two houses are so important in this game and in the original Red Dead. There's so much stuff that goes on at these houses.
Yeah, these places were gang hideouts even in Red Dead Redemption 1 multiplayer.
Oh, come on. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, the game's anniversary is coming up. Red Dead Redemption 1.
All right, when did Red Dead Redemption 1 come out? What was the anniversary date?
I think it was May 18th.
May 18th. Okay,
Thanks, bro.
no problem.
You have Red Dead Redemption 1 for your PS3, right?
I still have my PS3. I still have Red Dead. Yes.
You think you could do something like that, like what you did for GTA 4? Like
Possibly.
going-
Yeah, we could do something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, go on the multiplayer of that game, since there's actually a bit more activities to do on that game compared to the GTA 4's multiplayer. I think that's where GTA Online started to get a little bit of their ideas from too, was from the Red Dead Redemption 1 multiplayer.
You could actually go to Mexico in Red Dead Redemption 1.
Yeah, that's what I actually liked about Red Dead Redemption 1. I liked Mexico a lot. I missed Mexico in Red Dead Redemption 2. That was actually the most disappointing thing about this game, Red Dead Redemption 2, no Mexico. But still amazing game though.
Well, I always wanted to play that game and give a chance.
Can I deliver him right now?
Okay.
Or you want me to wait?
Okay. Oh, damn.
Oh,
Okay, I'm just gonna.
Hold on.
Don't worry. I'm just gonna
oh.
retry
Well, I
here.
was about to revive.
It's
well, I was
okay.
about to revive you though.
Hey, remember Abraham Reyes?
Oh yeah, that guy. That guy was annoying as hell.
Yeah, the revolutionary.
Wait, I forgot who he is. Isn't he one of the antagonists?
He's the revolutionary, but he's like a fake, though he doesn't really care about the people.
Yeah, you know who he kind of looks like a little bit to me? He kind of reminds me of Reznov in Black Ops 1, the way he looks.
What did you think of the new Saints Hulk DLC? The main antagonist was kind of a joke in the DLC, but it was what I'll say about it is that the first mission kind of sucked, second mission did, third mission was actually a bit better. The laser part was probably the best part of the mission, but yeah, it wasn't enough to get me to start playing the game again. I mean, you get a mansion at the end of the DLC, which I was grateful for, but
And the mansion gets like probably like a Saints like look to it after, right?
kind of a little bit, yeah, I'd say so then.
So it gets all purple.
It gets a little bit of a Saints theme, but it's still the same building.
Now that mansion costs money, right? That was part
No,
of the DLC,
it's free when
right?
you beat the story, you get it for free.
So what's the part where you pay $10?
Yeah, what did you think of it, Mario? But you know something? My friend RPG Gameplay, he's a Saints Row YouTuber. People are saying that the main antagonist looks like his character's avatar. And so, I don't know if that's like an accident or if it's just a similar character model or what.
I7 Moody must have sent me a friend request. I've noticed I just got that.
Alright, level 203.
Must be somebody watching the stream or something.
Oh, look, a train. I wish I could rob it. But they have nothing in there. All they have is empty chests. And empty bags. Well, unloaded bags, actually.
Okay.
Where are you headed now?
Let me go to, Tumbleweed.
Bro, what's your favorite town in Red Dead Redemption 2?
What do you think of Oswald Mosley? He's a traitor. Horrible human being. He was a British fascist who admired Hitler. It's very good that he never came to power in Britain. That guy was a monster. Do you think Rockstar was ever capable of adding San Fierro and Las Venturas as map expansions to GTA Online? No, that's too much because GTA Online was, when you think about it, really a PS3 game that was ported to PS4 and then ported to PS5.
Yeah, GTA 5 is just not built to be made all these map expansions and stuff. It's too late for all that.
I'm gonna go into game chat so I can play a little poker here, okay, guys?
Yep, have fun.
Mario, are you here? What did you think of the Saints Row DLC? What the? I can't even play here. Oh, come on. Going back into game chat, my game froze.
Game froze, eh?
Yep. Oh. Okay, Mario. Yeah, I remember that. We got new GTA games usually like every 2-3 years. But now, yeah, it's been, what, nearly 10 years and no new GTAs. Cad Bane is an interesting character in the Star Wars universe. He's a, I would say he's Boba Fett's equal, really, when you think about it. No, he even says it that he would have never stopped. He would have never walked away if Julius asked him. Okay, I'll see you, Jacob. Yeah, I know about that he killed him, but that was the only guy that really, I think, the only bounty hunter that I think could actually take on Fett. Trevor Jacob, you mean that idiot who crashed his plane for views? Man, that guy is. That guy's just an idiot. The Hasbro situation. Is that what that guy got the magic cards and then they sent like private detectives to his house? Wasteland? I've never heard of Fallout Wasteland. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's see if we can win a few hands here. They sent Pinkerton to his house. Oh yeah, that was the guy with the he accidentally got the wrong cards and he got cards that weren't supposed to release yet. Well, Venezuela became a dictatorship after the election of Hugo Chavez. Now, Hugo Chavez was elected, you know, legitimately, but then after he was elected, Venezuela slowly turned into a dictatorship, into his own, you know, dictatorship. And then after Chavez passed away from cancer, Maduro ended up taking over. Maduro's been the leader ever since. No, what is that, Michael? Where did the term snake oil originate? I'm not sure, but snake oil is meant to, like, it's like a word for something, for like a scam in a way. Gonna fold here, nothing good. Oh, let me look, Isaiah. I'm sorry that I missed your comment. Justin Bieber? I have really no opinion. I'm not a really fan of his music. Well, yeah, the idea that it could cut a tree down so quickly. GTA Online might have been too small for huge map expansions, but Reddit Online I'm sure wasn't. Reddit Online could have definitely gotten a map expansion. To Mexico, definitely, Bunny. Thank you for that super chat. Hey, Pro, what's for dinner? Probably pizza. How much do you lift at the gym? I can, if on a bench bar, I can lift 135 pounds. I know that might seem like I can't, but I can. How tall are you, Pro? About 6 feet. Do you think Frank and Leo Mafia 2 are lesser evil? Also, Joe Barber alive in Mafia 3. Joe is probably Leo's bodyguard, but Frank and Leo are bad people, but they're not evil. Sorry guys, I'm just a little tired tonight. Yeah, in a little bit, stream's coming to an end. I gotta go soon because I gotta do something soon, but... Favorite Mafia game? Probably the first one remastered. Probably gonna do a playthrough of Dead Rising 2. Also hope you and everyone here in the chat are doing good. Thank you, Aussie Guy. And yes, I will do a playthrough of Dead Rising 2. But I want to do Dead Rising 1 first again. Thank you, Aussie Guy. The Valkyrie snipers suck in Sniper Elite Deathstorm on authentic difficulty. Thank you, Aussie Guy. Speaking of which, Aussie Guy, do you know, and Mario, if you're still here, do you guys know that the, that there's an Australian guy in GTA 5? It's the ship captain on the yacht. He's Australian. Do you guys know about that Aussie guy in Tricky Mario? Oh, come on. Come on. Yes. Yes, I did it. I got it, guys. Okay. Oh, man. I'm gonna end off here, because it's a good place to end it here. I'm a bit tired, and I gotta take care of something important. Darth Viper said he sounds more Aussie than him. Oh. Huh. No, that was Kent Paul, but he wasn't Australian, he was British. Whoa, what? What was that? Okay. What was that? Okay, I'll still stick around for 1 or 2 minutes and answer some questions here before I go. What did you think of the legacy blue check marks going away on Twitter? The elites were crying when it happened. Legacy blue check marks. Are you talking about the check marks they had before they put in that that fee, and then they were taken away because they didn't want to pay the fee? You know, the thing about this is I never understood the whole check mark thing. You know, that, because what is a check mark even supposed to mean? What, that you're more important than somebody else? So, it's no wonder that entitled celebrities love the check mark so much. But the only thing I could see the check mark helping with is like preventing like imposters. There's like, you know, bot accounts that pretend to be people, but you can always click on the account to see whether it's the real one. So I don't really think the check marks are really important. I noticed that with the yacht captain. Oh, okay, Aussie guy.
Dang, you've been going a long time. Back for some good meat, are you?
The checkmark system became tainted when they took certain people's checkmarks away for wrong thing. So people lost the checkmarks? I didn't even know about that. But like I said, like, here's what I say about Twitter. you know, Twitter is a toxic hellhole for the most part. And, you know, people are complaining about Elon Musk, but what I'll say, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, nor do I hate him. I'm just kind of in the middle. But what I'll say about it is that it can't get worse under him. That's just my personal viewpoint, because Twitter was already a mess. So I don't think anybody can even make it worse, possibly. Yeah, I don't know what's with this celebrity entitlement. Did you get my super chat? No, I don't think I did, Mark. Maybe I didn't see it. Well, what's your question, though, Mark? Thank you for the super chat.
But he's buying the same milk and eggs as everyone else.
I will do a Kane and Lynch 2 play for Rosea. I'll play Kane and Lynch Dog Days on PC for the single player, but the online will play on the PS3 when we finish the single player.
I encourage you to look at my catalog too when you get a second. Lots more stuff in there.
I used to own a yacht when I used to have my PS4 character, but I didn't know how to transfer my PS4 character to PS5, so I started all over again. I think it was a little hard to figure it out too.
Boy, that sheriff's running this town.
I don't even remember how to transfer the PS4 character to PS5. Yeah, I actually don't even remember how to do it. I did it, but I don't even remember how to do it. Did you do it through Social Club? I don't think so.
Lots in right now if you want to stop up.
I want him dead. You hear me?
Okay, well, I will, yeah, modern celebrities are very cringe. Thank you, guys. Did Mark69, did Mark69 reply? Oh, was it thanks for playing the Saints Row DLC? Okay. When did you post this super chat? Let me see if I can find it here.
Herbert Moon. You know he has the store in Armadillo? Seems to be entirely unaffected by that cholera outbreak.
No, I don't see you here, Mark, but thank you, though. Hi, Patrick, how are you? I'm sorry I missed the stream. It's okay, Caliber. But I guess I'll be going here, guys. I'm a bit hungry, and I'm kind of a little tired because I was up really early in the morning today because I had to do a few things. But I'm actually gonna have a lore video for you guys again this week, another one. This one's gonna be kind of short too, but this one's gonna be, you know, not really funny one, but it's gonna be explaining a character's backstory and some things you might not have noticed. So. But thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will see you guys on the next one. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.